Tekking spinning dart attack! Haha! Alright. Whoa. Okay, we're good. We're good. I think that was a good one. I think I'll add that to my super move roster. You know, if there's ever a video game, it'll probably come out on the PlayStation 6. It's a fighting game that's going to feature all the YouTube anime reviewers and people that talk about anime. Like, we're all going to be on there, okay? That's going to be my super move, the Tekking spinning dart attack. You know, mine is the drill that will pierce... Oh, wait, hold on. Alright, now we're set. Mine is the drill that will pierce the heavens! Okay. Hi everyone, how are you doing today? I'm doing okay. I'm in like a spinning dart kind of mood. So today we're gonna be talking about the new One Piece opening number 24. Hey, that's a good number. That's the day of my birthday, April 24th, okay? So the name of the song is Paint by I Don't Like Mondays, which is the name of the band, I Don't Like Mondays. I feel like I'm probably not the first person to make this joke, but I will anyway. They got Garfield to sing the 24th opening of One Piece? That's so cool. Could it be Bill Murray's Garfield? Actually, okay, can we get a petition started to get Bill Murray to sing the 25th opening of One Piece? I don't even know if he has... Actually, no, I have heard he does have a lovely singing voice. It would be the most random thing ever. I doubt Bill Murray has even heard of One Piece, or if he has heard about it, I don't even know if he cares. But can we get Bill Murray to sing the next opening of One Piece? I think it would fit perfectly for the Elbaf arc, you know? Alright, so this is the 24th opening, and you know, we were on Dreamin' On for a very, very long time. You know, like, the first opening with Wano, what was it called? I always want to call it One Dream, because that's how it starts off, but it's not called that. It's Over the Top, that's it, Over the Top. That didn't last that long, really. I think it was only like the first act and a little bit into the second act, but we've been on Dreaming On for a long, long time, and I love that opening. And of course, that featured a lot of stuff from the beginning of the raid on Onigashima, but now we're at opening 24, which is pretty much the entirety of the raid on Onigashima. We have the fights with Kaido and the Scabbards and the Worst Generation and the Tobiropo and the All-Stars. Like, it's all here, right? And so for that reason, there was actually a decent number of spoilers in the opening. Although, the first time I watched the opening, I was sitting there like, oh, I don't think they spoiled that much. And then on the internet, it was all like, they spoiled everything! And I went back and looked at it again, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that kind of might spoil something. But here's the thing with openings. It's just, there might be a scene in the opening that hasn't happened yet, even in the manga, and you're sitting there kind of wondering, like, is that a spoiler? Like, remember that opening? It was a few ago. I can't remember if it was Hard Knock Days. It might have been. The opening where you have, like Sanji fighting Kizaru, right? And then, you know, Zoro is fighting Fujitora, and then Luffy clashes with Akainu, and it's like, is that actually going to happen? I mean, Luffy probably will fight Akainu. I assume he would at some point. Maybe Sabo will help him out. I mean, obviously, Fujitora has to fight with Zoro, like, officially, right? We have to see that. That's been teased so much. We kind of saw a little bit of that at Dressrosa, and then during Stampede, like, Fujitora and Zoro have to fight at some point. But then it was like, yeah, is Sanji going to actually fight Kizaru in the manga? Like, I don't know, right? So it might be a situation with that. But let's go through the opening. Overall, I would say the song is a lot more pleasant, a lot more calming than I originally assumed it would be for, like, something like this, where we're getting into the thick of the fight at Onigashima, right, against one of the Yonko, against two of the Yonko, right? I was expecting a little bit more, like, Japanese death metal kind of vibe to it, but, you know, this is actually, I've been watching One Piece for a long, long time. I think this is the first time that I listened to the song of the One Piece opening before the opening itself. So it was announced a while ago that the song was going to be Paint by I Don't Like Mondays, and I looked it up and I listened to that song and I was like, this is interesting. This is an interesting kind of song to use for this point in the One Piece story, but I'll have to wait to see, you know, how it's actually animated and the graphics and what they have in the background and stuff. And it was very emotional, just not what I originally expected, okay? So the opening starts out with the straw hat underwater, and then Luffy reaches out to grab the hat. There's a lot of themes with underwater in this opening, not just because, of course, One Piece takes place on the ocean, but also, yeah, spoiler alert, Luffy gets knocked into the water here, and there's a moment in this arc where he spends quite a few chapters sinking under the ocean before he's saved by the Heart Pirates, okay? So having a theme of being underwater, or like the depths of the abyss, or like the darkness, and then they breach the ocean and they get out and they go back to fight Kaido. Like, that's the hope of the opening, right? Okay, there's that. We see flashes of Whitebeard and Roger in their younger days, as well as Rocks. Now, we don't see Rocks as he actually appears. We see him in his, like, darkened silhouette with, like, his evil eyes and, like, his hair and stuff. So we don't get more of, like, how Rocks looked, but just the fact it's like, hey, that's Whitebeard and Roger, and they're both of the greatest pirates that ever lived, and you see Shanks at the very end there, so of course you would include Rocks in there along with them. I mean, honestly, from what we understand, Rocks was even stronger than Roger in his heyday, because it took Roger in his heyday and Garp in his heyday pretty much together to take Rocks down. So the implication is Rocks might have even been stronger than Garp and Roger separately at that point, which is insane, right? And this is, we're talking about Garp when he was like in his 40s, like top level Garp, and Rocks still could have been stronger there. So that's a really cool scene. This is also the debut of Kaido's hybrid dragon form. We see it actually quite a few times during the opening, but it appears right at the end when we see Rocks, Whitebeard, Roger, and then Shanks, and then Kaido shows up in his hybrid form with his Kanabo, and he launches an attack, okay? So that's just really cool to see it in his hybrid form. We see a shot of, and this is a scene that I actually missed the first time I watched it, where I was like, oh, there's not a lot of spoilers in this. There's a shot of Onigashima. It's a zoomed-in view of Onigashima with clouds swirling around the bottom, and the clouds are moving behind it. So if you know what happens in the manga, and if you look at this scene, you're like, oh, that's with Onigashima flying. That's the scene of it being lifted up and, like, you know, getting sent toward the flower capital. But at just first glance, and if you don't know what's going to happen, it doesn't really give that impression. Like, I didn't notice it right away. Like, yeah, if you freeze frame right there and you're like, why are there clouds swirling underneath Onigashima? Oh my god, is it going to fly? You know, and so maybe that, but it wasn't like super obvious with just the first scene. Also understand, a lot of these scenes go by very, very fast, and I had to stop and pause to really understand, go frame by frame a lot of times, to really understand what the hell was even happening. So then we have a shot with Kaido and Big Mom, followed by all of the Tobiroppo, okay? And the Tobiroppo have already been introduced, so we already know all their color schemes, but this is their first big moment in an intro, okay? And it's suffice to say, Ulti and Page 1 kind of steal the show, which makes sense. Like, if the Tobiroppo were actually going to film, like, an intro, like, there was actually, like, a film production coming to Onigashima, like, all right, everybody, you know, we're gonna direct an opening for Onigashima. We want the Tobiroppo in the shot. You know, Ulti specifically would be like, I want to be in the whole damn thing, right? So she would be the one that's kind of like in front of everybody and like cutting everybody off and stuff. He's like, I don't care who's who, I'm on camera, you know? So that makes sense there. We have, this is a moment, this is a fun one. After the Tobiroppo, we have a shot of Shinobu and Momonosuke on the ground in the flower capital looking up just terrified. And then there's a shot of Kaido in his dragon form launching a Boro Breath. It looks like a straight up laser beam at the flower capital and just blowing it to smithereens, right? Now, I saw some people talking about that, like, you know, that spoiled something in the manga. I guess we know Kaido's going to attack the flower capital now. It's like, not necessarily. It just might be in there because it looks cool. Like the idea of Kaido blasting a laser right at the camera. See, that's how they get you with these One Piece openings, okay? They'll include some stuff that has nothing to do with spoilers. Then they'll include some manga spoilers. Then they'll include some spoilers that aren't even in the manga yet. But then they'll also include maybe some fake-out spoilers. It's just like, will this happen? I don't know. It didn't happen yet, but it might. You know? It's the kind of the thing with, like, Over the Top, how they had Denjiro in there clearly as one of the scabbards, even though he was not revealed to be one of the scabbards yet. And it's like, that's either a spoiler or it's a fake out. And in that case, it turned out to be a spoiler, but who knows? It might be a situation where Kaido's about to lose and his last act of strength is to attack the flower capital out of spite. You know, maybe, or it might just be in there because it looks cool. Personally, I think it's in there just because it looks cool, but I might be wrong on that, okay? Then we have a really cool scene. I had to go frame by frame for this one. There's a scene where we have Odin, okay? So Odin shows up and he strikes a pose and everything, but what's that behind Odin? I had to go really slow to figure that out. It's something frozen, but I wasn't sure. It's a log pose. It's a New World log pose, like, so the one that Nami has, like the 3 different compasses, zoomed in and then frozen. And I'm like, okay, That is interesting. That is some stuff. That clearly means, I mean, there's no other way you could take it. The Straw Hats are gonna go to the Ice Continent next arc. Woo! Yeah, finally. Okay, yeah, no, probably not. I mean, it could indicate a few things. It could indicate the journey has been frozen or the journey has been stopped in some way, and that could imply for Odin's journey, because of his death, he didn't really get to finish the stuff he wanted to do with like opening up Wano, and that'll be Momonosuke that actually, fulfills that dream. Momonosuke and Hiyori that'll probably, fulfill that dream, as well as the Scabbards. So you could look at it like that, or you could look at it like maybe that's an indication that the Straw Hats' journey is going to be frozen or stalled. Maybe they might have to go to Marijois to rescue Sabo, as seen in that 3-part little mini documentary I did last week. Maybe. I don't know. I just know there's a frozen log pose here, and it's like, it's there for a reason. Like, it has to be there for some reason, some symbolic thing of a log pose being frozen, which would probably indicate the halt or the, the pausing of a journey in some capacity, right? Yeah, so let me know, but yeah, it might just be something indicative of Odin, or it could be something for the Straw Hats in the future after the Wano arc is over. I don't know. We see a scene with the Cypher Pool Zero in their indestructible waiting room. The indestructible waiting room of the gods made it into the opening. I love that. And then everything goes red and ominous as we see Orochi's, Yamato no Orochi silhouette in the background. I am Lord Orochi! Implying that he maybe isn't dead. Ooh, he's not. Okay, then moving on, we have a scene with Yamato and Ace. A good chunk of the beginning of this opening is focused on Yamato, which makes sense because she was just introduced. But we have the flashback with Yamato as a child being locked in the cave. We don't see everything there. We don't see like the samurai that she was locked in the cave with, but we do see her as a child in the shackles crying in the cave. All right, and then we have Yamato there in front of the destroyed dragon statue that Ace melted. That fades into Ace there. And by the way, at this point in the song, when Ace shows up, that's a point when the music is getting really, really good, because right after Ace, we see an image of Marco flying around the festival hall, and I missed this the first time I watched it. I thought it was just like the embers of his blue fire, but Marco is actually crying when he's doing that. So Marco is flying around the festival hall attacking King and Queen, and he's crying while he's doing that. And, it's kind of overlooked a lot because there's so much stuff going on right now with the Toby Ropo and then the Straw Hats and the All-Stars and everything in this arc. But Marco being there and Marco fighting, for him, that is an insanely important thing, because that was like, all right, he fought with Whitebeard at Marineford and he tried his best, and Whitebeard and Ace ended up dying. And then he became the captain of the Whitebeard crew, and it was on him to carry on Whitebeard and Ace's legacy, or he felt like it was on him to carry that weight. And so he did the payback war, and then they all got devastated there. Probably more people on the crew died. Maybe not, maybe some of the commanders did. Who knows? I mean, Izo survived. Marco survived. Maybe Jozu. I'm assuming Vista survived. But some of, Rakuyo could have died. Blenheim could have died. Some other people could have died during the payback war. And then Marco was just crushed after that. He tried fighting alongside Whitebeard and it didn't work. He tried avenging Whitebeard and it didn't work. He was probably like, I've had so many chances here and I failed each one. And so he just goes and, retreats back to Sphinx Island, where he just watches over the village and tries to do as best as he can to make sure that it's safe. But now it's like he's been given a third chance, and he's just like, okay, I'm going do this again, and I'm going to fight alongside the Straw Hats, Ace's brother Luffy. I'm going to fight alongside the Scabbards that fought, under Odin, and Odin was my Nakama, and I'm finally going to set it right. I'm finally going to get the redemption moment, okay? Because I feel like nobody really holds it against Marco, but Marco himself might be feeling like he needs to redeem himself in some way, and he tried so many ways and it failed. But now it's like, do I actually get another chance? Is this the right time for me to, okay, then I'll do it. And then so he's there at the festival hall, and Marco really does carry his weight. I mean, he fights against King and Queen and holds them off for a big chunk of this arc. Marco deserves some accolades for that. But anyway, yeah, Marco's crying probably because remembering Whitebeard, remembering Ace, remembering Odin. It's just like, this is the moment, okay? So that's a really cool scene. Then we cut to a really cool shot, probably the coolest shot in the entire opening, just aesthetically, that I love. We see Onigashima in red seemingly like actually become alive. And I saw a thing on Twitter of one of the animators on this, and somebody actually asked him a question like, why does it look like Onigashima is literally coming alive? And the animator was like, oh, that was actually something the director specified, like make sure the background looks to be in such a way that the skull is coming alive. Now, once again, the only reason that might be in the opening is just because it looks cool. Or it could be like when the island begins to lift off of the ocean, when Kaido begins to lift it up, it gives the impression that it's actually coming alive, right? It's rising up again, okay? I mean, I don't think it's going to be like the skull is actually going to, or like the skull's gonna wake up and like a giant skeleton emerges out of the ground. You know, like I don't think that's going to happen. Like it's a giant skeleton we're fighting against now. What the hell, you know? I don't think it's gonna happen or anything like that. But it's just a really cool shot of like the skull like, you know, like coming out of the ground seemingly, okay? So then we have very brief scenes of the individual fights. Well, some are briefer than others. Frankie's one shot of the Frankie Shogun clashing with Sasaki in his Triceratops form, that only lasts like a second. But then we get Robin's fight with Black Maria, and that's also a moment in the song that gets really good when Robin is summoning her giant body behind her, her giant naked form of herself behind her with all the arms coming out of her. You know, not the Demonio, not that form, but like the other forms. So not really much of a spoiler there. I mean, if it showed the Demonio, then I'm like, okay, that's kind of going overboard. But just like the giant regular version of herself with all the arms behind her, I guess that's not that much of a spoiler. We get to see Black Maria in her Rosa Megalia Gravagelli hybrid form, summoning the webs around her. And the whole aesthetic here, this whole scene with the Straw Hats fighting the Tobiropo happens in the opening on the back of Kaido. So it's like Kaido is like the giant dragon and all the Straw Hats are fighting the Tobiropo simultaneously on the back of Kaido as this is happening, which, you know, I would kind of like that to happen in the story. That would have actually made it way cooler. You know, like Frankie's fighting Sasaki, Jinbei's clashing with Who's Who on the back of Kaido as Kaido's fighting against Kid, Law, and Luffy. That would have been sweet. A little bit impractical, but sweet nonetheless. So we see that with Frankie and Sasaki. We see Usopp and Nami and Otama there running away from Ulti and Page 1, and we get a shot with Jinbei fighting with Who's Who. Jinbei armament hockeys up his fist and like punches Who's Who in the teeth, you know, so we see those scenes. Those are really cool there. We also have scenes with Drake and Hyo where they just kind of look at the camera because, of course, Drake is not going to fight the Straw Hats as a Tobiropo. Here's a question for you. Would you have preferred that? Would you have preferred Drake to reveal himself as a member of SWORD and an ally like later on in the arc, or when it happened? Because he basically revealed himself to be an undercover agent before the fights got started, okay? Well, wouldn't it have been also kind of interesting if like one of the Straw Hats did end up fighting Drake for at least a little while, and then like a little bit into the fight he was like, you know what, I give up. And he's like, what? He's like, I don't actually work for Kaido, I'm here for other reasons, I want to join with you. You know, that might have made things a little bit more complicated because, like, whoever Straw Hat fights him, you know, would they actually believe him? But still, what would you have preferred on that? That would have been actually an interesting way, just to see Drake, you know, fight one of the Straw Hats, maintaining his cover as the Tobiropo for a little bit while longer there. Let's see. We have the scenes from the episode, which a lot of the most recent openings have been doing that, where at some point in the opening, to kind of fill out time for the song, they'll have just random scenes from the episode, so that's where we see it. And then we have a really cool black and white scene with Kaido as a dragon, like, biting this giant form of Odin, and the only thing in color is his eyes, and so it's like red eyes and then black and white everything else, so that's really cool. Then we have the scene with Luffy falling down into the water, and then Kid and Law both grabbing one of his arms and throwing him back to the surface at Kaido into the sky. That's a cool moment. The only thing I could see maybe kind of happening with that is like, what if Luffy gets knocked down through the roof of Onigashima, and Kid and Law have just defeated, finishing off Big Mom, and then Kid and Law might have been still in their fight with Big Mom, or maybe they just finished off Big Mom or whatever, and Luffy lands right in front of them and just like, hey, Straw Hat, you know, we have our fights, you have yours, get back up there, and Law and Kid both pick him up and toss him back to the roof, and then they get back to fighting Big Mom. Like, that would have been a cool scene. I mean, it might still happen, right? But that was really nice to see Kid and Law and Luffy all in one scene. You know, I don't know, like, I feel like at the offset, Oda wanted to maybe focus a lot more on Kid and Law fighting against Kaido, maybe. And we got that, but we didn't get, like, a tremendous amount of that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think people have really made fun of it, but also it's kind of obvious that, like, Kid really hasn't had much spotlight in this arc, and I think Oda really wanted this to be the arc, kind of like how Beiji got a lot of spotlight during Totland, Law got a lot of spotlight during, well, Punk Hazard and Dressrosa. You know, I would say, honestly, more spotlight has been paid on Apu and Drake in this arc than Kid, and so that's a little disappointing. So who knows, though? Maybe Kid will reappear in the next arc or whatever, and we might focus on him a little bit more. But I can't really tell if, like, Oda wants to do a lot of stuff with Eustace in this arc, or if he's holding him off for something else. I can't really tell. But then we have the final scenes of the opening where, as the opposite from the beginning where they were all underwater looking after the Straw Hat, now all of the Straw Hats are flying high in the sky. So, like, Kid and Law throw Luffy into the sky, and he's, like, flying in the sky, and the Sunny's in the sky, and then we have shots of all the Straw Hats. Luffy hugs Jinbei, which is totes adorbs, and it's like then all the Straw Hats are together, and then it's the end of the song, right? And so that's opening 24, Paint by I Don't Like Mondays. I would say, and it's one of those things where it's really difficult right at the beginning of a new opening to say, like, you know, unless it absolutely blows me away. Like, the first time I saw Hope, the 20th opening, I was like, this is one of the best openings I have ever seen. This is going to be one of my top, you know, openings from now on. And my favorite opening for a very, very long time in One Piece was the 6th opening, Brand New World. But when I saw opening 20, Hope, I'm like, this is probably my new favorite. And, you know, after a while, after the song kind of, like, you know, settled with me for a while, I'm like, yeah, the 20th opening is my favorite opening, pretty much. It sometimes switches between Brand New World and Hope, but it's like 1 and 2. It's like they're up there, okay? I don't think this one will be, like, quite that high up on my rankings. It's not, like, my favorite or in my top 3 or anything. And right now, I would probably say I like Dreamin' On more, but I've only listened to this song a few times, and it's only been out for, like, you know, 1 episode so far, so gotta give it a little bit more time, but it's certainly not bad. I might actually like it more than Over the Top. Over the Top, you know, it had some really good moments, but I think overall, like, I like Dreamin' On more, so it might, as for, like, the Wano openings, it might go Dreamin' On, then Paint, and then Over the Top, I'm thinking. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what you think about the 24th opening and all the stuff that's involved in that, all the spoilers. And, you know, if Bill Murray were to sing the 25th One Piece opening, what song would he sing? We got to figure this out. We got to get the intricacies of this down, and then we send a thing to Bill Murray, which he will promptly probably just throw in the garbage. But we can give it a shot, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking signing out.